A lot of people like to say brains don't care about your happiness. They only care about your survival. But that's just not true. Brains care about your happiness, they just care about your survival a little bit more. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about why it's so hard to feel good. On this channel, we explore how to get in touch with your emotions, develop your emotional literacy skills, and build the life of your dreams. Or maybe you just want to feel better on a day-to-day experience. In this video, I'm going to talk about what are some of the obstacles to being able to feel positive emotions. I was inspired to create this video because I was listening to the audiobook Effortless by Greg McKeown. And in that audiobook, he talks about how human brains are wired to pay attention to negative emotions. This is a concept I've heard of before. It's called negativity bias. And it's actually one of the reasons that humans have been so successful as a species. Negativity bias is part of our survival instinct. You can think of it as like the operating instructions of human brains. And there are three main things that human brains are trying to do at all times. They're trying to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and conserve energy. Pretty much all human motivation can be boiled down to seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and conserving energy. I'm guessing if you're watching YouTube, you're familiar with the seeking pleasure part of this equation. This is where we seek things that give us those delicious hits of dopamine and other positive neurotransmitters. And there's definitely a big connection between our overabundance of dopamine and why it can be difficult to feel good in our modern world, but that's not a topic for today. Instead, I want to turn our attention to the avoiding pain and conserving energy side of this survival instinct. One of the reasons it's hard to feel positive emotions or just feel good is that in our culture, we have coded emotions as negative. Even just having this binary of positive and negative emotions is actually one of the ways that we can stop ourselves from being able to access those deeper levels of emotional intelligence. And our culture contributes a lot to this. Almost all displays of emotion are often met with some kind of cultural taboo. A lot of people find it really difficult to express even positive emotions, and we definitely recognize that there are a lot of forces that are asking people to repress some of the darker, more challenging emotions to feel. I was recently watching a video interview with the therapist Esther Perel, and she talked about how jealousy is culturally dependent. In some cultures, people think it's actually a good thing to feel jealous of your partner or feel jealous of other people, perhaps threatening your relationship, that it's seen as a positive sign of interest and passion. However, a lot of people are also familiar with the negative associations with these emotions. Let's remember that all emotions are just sensations and messages from our brains that are being interpreted in a cultural and specific way that is completely dependent on our individual lives and our individual context. Emotions are actually neutral. You might think that, no, that's not true. Sadness is always a negative emotion. But think about a time when something happened in your life and you wanted to feel sad about that situation because you were processing something important, like grief at the loss of a loved one. Emotions get coded as negative in our brains, and our survival brain is trying to avoid the pain of either the emotion itself or the judgment we think we'll feel if we openly express that emotion. This is also very culturally dependent, where certain emotions are given certain labels. I'm sure you can think of lots of times in your life when you were given messages that certain emotions weren't allowed. It's also difficult to feel our emotions because brains are always trying to conserve energy. Brains think of our survival as being completely dependent on the amount of energy we have in our reserves. That motivates a lot of our behaviors and why we often feel that sense of I'll get to it later about most things, including looking at and processing our emotional experiences. But emotions aren't positive or negative. It really depends on the messages we take from them. If you're curious to learn more about how we can look at a potentially negative emotion and recognize the message that it's trying to send us, then check out this video on allowing dread. Like I've said many times before, the first step is cultivating a mindset of openness and curiosity to our inner emotional experience. This is a skill that many people have never learned before, but it's a skill you can develop. And if you'd like to work on that skill, then make sure to click subscribe below, because this channel is all about helping you develop your sense of internal emotional literacy. If we want to cultivate more feeling good, positive emotions in our lives, the first step is to learn how to recognize the emotions, sensations in our bodies. One of the best ways to do this is to practice noticing and naming that sensation. I personally am a big fan of using an emotions wheel, but there's lots of amazing resources for learning how to get what is known as emotional granularity, learning how to be specific and name the emotion in order to better understand where it's coming from and what message it might have for us. Part of learning to notice and name our emotions is actually allowing them, processing them, and making sure that we give space for the emotion to run its full physiological course through our body. If you want to give that a try, check out this guided meditation on allowing and processing emotions. Once you've developed the skill of noticing and naming your emotions, you can start to get stronger and stronger at recognizing the emotions that you want to cultivate. I once heard about this described as all of the emotions being available on a platter or at a buffet, and with the skill of emotional literacy, you can choose which ones you want to feel and cultivate them so you feel them not only more often, but more strongly in your own life. One of the ways to practice cultivating the emotion that you want to feel is when you recognize it in your own life, to think about what thought you're having when you feel that emotion. Thoughts and emotions are intimately connected to one another, and there's a lot of research that is looking into the connection between the thoughts that we think and the physiological responses we have in our bodies, aka our emotions. For me personally, I love to feel proud of myself. And one of the ways that I feel proud of myself is when I show up and I do something imperfectly. When I work on making a YouTube video or writing something for my website or working with a client, I like to remind myself I feel proud when I show up. That's all it takes for me to cultivate that emotion, notice the sensation, which for me is like a warm, spreading, rising sensation in my chest. And then I'm immediately feeling more motivated to sit down and work on whatever it is that before I might have been feeling some avoidance, dread, procrastination, all those other emotions that I had to learn how to allow and process through my body. What emotions do you want to cultivate in your own life? If you want some help building your emotional literacy skills and cultivating positive emotions, then check out my website, because I've got a couple of spots open for one-on-one coaching, and feel free to book a free curiosity call so we can talk more about how you can develop this skill as well.